My family plans to hijack my wedding for my sister's engagement, and Mom insists it's her right, so I'm secretly canceling it. Maybe this is the wrong place, but I need to get this off my chest before I explode with rage and disappointment at my family. My younger sister Lily is the golden child. Well, maybe that's not fair to say, but she survived cancer when she was a child, and that was the darkest period of my parents' lives. I don't remember much of it because my parents shielded me from the horrific truth. I knew she was sick, and I remember spending a lot of time in hospitals, but I didn't fully understand just how close we were to losing her until many years later. I was 12 and she was 10. After she beat the sickness, she became the obvious favorite in the house. She got everything she wanted, sometimes at my expense. I resented it, but I was always told that I was a naughty girl for being jealous of my hero sister. Lily grew up to be a brat, and now 20 years later, she's still bratty. Though we get along much better than we did when we were teenagers, the issues are still there. My wedding is in July, and neither my fiancé Mark nor I have the money for a big event. We had settled on a small wedding with just 30 people at Mark's grandparents' house, which has a beautiful lake view. When my parents heard this, they said no way, and offered to pay for a bigger wedding with a better venue. We didn't agree at first, but then we didn't want to disappoint them since it seemed like it was really important to them. Last week, my mom invited me over. My dad, mom, and Lily's boyfriend asked me what I would think if Lily's boyfriend proposed to her at my wedding, turning it into an engagement party as well. My mom had seen a reel on Instagram about people proposing to their maid of honor or bridesmaids and thought it was cute. Lily was supposed to be my maid of honor. I said no, that's ridiculous, and laughed. My mom was livid. She told me I was selfish and ungrateful, and accused me of favoritism. I told her I always thought it was odd that you'd pay for my wedding, but now I know the reason why. She started crying and kicked me out of the house. Later, she and Lily's boyfriend both sent me texts warning me not to expose their plan to Lily. Mark was disappointed, but not sure what we could do. My parents had spent almost $30,000, and it was too late to cancel. Then my mother called me today to plan the proposal. I begged her not to ruin my day. She told me since she was paying for everything she could make requests, and I needed to let go of my jealousy and resentment towards Lily because she's innocent in all of this. But the thing is, this day was supposed to be about me. I told Mark to ask his grandparents if they were still willing to host our wedding. If they were, we'd revert to our original plan. If not, we would elope. I'm not sure if I should tell my family and cancel the wedding, or just let them turn it into their grand proposal party. None of my family, including Lily, is invited to my wedding. I'm also unsure whether to warn Lily. She has no idea her boyfriend is planning to propose, and I feel like telling her would ruin the whole thing. But at the same time, it would be ruined anyway when I elope, and I'll have to explain why. As of this morning, my mom still insists they're going ahead with the proposal, even without my help. The original plan was that I would make a speech and tell Lily there was a surprise for her. Then her boyfriend and friends would do a choreographed dance to their favorite song before he proposes. If I know her well, she wouldn't mind being proposed to at my wedding, so it's a lose-lose situation for me. Sometimes I think maybe I should just agree and get it over with, but I'm so angry. Mark doesn't want me to cave this time. We are both happy with the backyard wedding we originally planned. We even asked Mom to donate the money she had planned on spending to the Childhood Cancer Fund in our names like we requested, as a wedding gift from our guests, but she insisted on throwing a big party for the extended family instead. I had a back and forth with my future brother-in-law, where he called me jealous and bitter. I've now blocked him. He texted Mark apologizing, but we didn't respond. My plan now is to get married a week earlier at Mark's grandparents' house with 20 guests. We've already changed our honeymoon trip to be 3 weeks instead of two. The wedding is already paid for, and there's no way to get a refund with just 3 weeks' notice. That was part of the plan to spring this on me so close to the wedding date that I wouldn't be able to do anything about it. I'm sure they'll turn my wedding into an engagement party and have a blast, so it's a win-win for them, right? Update 1. I want to start by thanking everyone for the overwhelming support I received when I posted about my wedding hijack situation. The messages I received truly lifted me up, and I'm so grateful for each of you who took the time to read and respond. Now that the dust has settled, I wanted to share the final outcome with you all. After a lot of reflection, I decided to go ahead with my wedding a week earlier than originally planned. My fiancé and I had been talking about what would truly make us happy, and the thought of enduring a day that would have been all about my sister, especially after everything that happened with my family, just didn't sit right with me. My fiancé fully supported my decision. Despite the fact that my parents had already spent a huge amount on the wedding, we didn't feel it was worth having the event they envisioned, which felt like a manipulation more than a celebration. We were still in disbelief that they would try to hijack our wedding for my sister's engagement. The audacity. When I told my fiancé that I wanted to cancel the wedding with my family and elope, he was hesitant at first. I think he was concerned about my relationship with my family and the possible consequences. But ultimately he trusted my judgment. This wasn't just about a wedding, it was about my peace of mind and maintaining the joy of the day for the two of us, not catering to family drama. As the wedding date neared, my mom tried to guilt-trip me into changing my mind. She kept pushing that since she was paying for the wedding, it was her right to request what she wanted, including the proposal during the ceremony. She became more manipulative, calling me selfish for not understanding that my sister deserved this special moment. My mom even told me I was letting go of my jealousy and resentment, and that it was time for me to stop being bitter about my sister's past. But that was never the issue. The issue was that this day was supposed to be mine and my fiancé's, not a grand spectacle for my sister to take center stage. It reached the point where I had to cut all ties for a while. I blocked my future brother-in-law's number after a text exchange where he called me bitter and selfish. Even though he later apologized, the damage was done. My fiancé and I agreed that we were done arguing and decided to elope. I coordinated with his grandparents, who were kind enough to still host the wedding at their lakeside home, even though we had to rush things. We sent out invitations to our closest friends and family, with clear instructions not to post or take photos until we were already on our honeymoon, as we wanted to avoid any drama. The week before the original wedding, I came clean to my sister. She was initially upset, but more because she had hoped to keep the engagement surprise intact. Still, she was disappointed by the fact that I wasn't going to support the idea, and I felt guilty for breaking the news to her. But at the same time, I couldn't let her overshadow my wedding. It wasn't about her, and it wasn't about my mom's need for attention. When the wedding day came, it was everything I dreamed of. Though it hurt that my family wasn't there, I focused on what truly mattered, the love I have for my husband and the intimate, beautiful ceremony we had. We had a handful of guests, close friends, a few cousins, and my favorite aunt. The ceremony was perfect, even though I couldn't help but think of my family, who were already seeing my wedding photos on social media and gearing up for their engagement party version of the event. My in-laws were amazing, surprising us with an upgraded honeymoon. They treated us like royalty, which was a stark contrast to the coldness I was feeling from my family. As I had predicted, my mother went on an all-out social media tirade, publicly bashing me and my husband for ruining her plans. She posted angry messages, accusing me of being ungrateful, disrespectful, and costing her thousands of dollars. She even posted pictures of my wedding, calling it ruined and demanding that I pay her back. This was when I knew I had made the right decision. No amount of money or manipulation was worth losing my happiness for. My dad and brother-in-law followed suit, cutting me off and demanding compensation, but I didn't back down. I wasn't going to allow them to dictate how I should live my life, let alone my wedding day. The aftermath has been a mess. My family continues to call me names and share their disapproval on social media. But honestly, their reactions didn't bother me as much as I thought they would. The people we invited to our wedding supported us, and not one of them engaged in any of the online drama. I'm proud of how we stood our ground. As for the engagement party, well, my sister got exactly what she wanted. They turned my wedding into an engagement celebration, and from what I've seen online, they had a blast. But I feel no regret for my decision. I will never allow anyone to steal my joy again, especially not my family. They may have gotten their grand proposal, but I got my peace, and that's what truly matters. Update 2. After hearing that heartbreaking moment, it felt like the final nail in the coffin of my self-esteem. I've always known I wasn't conventionally attractive. Growing up, I had been told in subtle ways that I wasn't pretty enough. I thought I had finally found someone who loved me for who I am, and the thought that he could think of me as unattractive, especially after all the lovely things he said to me over the years, shattered my confidence in a way I didn't expect. I've been married to my husband for 4 years, and he's truly my rock. He's always made me feel beautiful in his eyes. When we first met, I thought there was no way someone as amazing as him would ever look twice at me. But he did, and we fell in love. Over time, he constantly reassured me that I was beautiful, and I believed him. He'd often say things like, "You're the most beautiful woman in the world to me," and I felt like he meant it. But then I overheard him telling his friends that I was ugly, and it shook me to my core. Even if he defended me and said how much he loved me, it didn't change the fact that he had used that word ugly to describe me. When I overheard the conversation, I immediately ran to the bathroom and broke down. I wanted to scream, to confront him, but I couldn't. I didn't know how to process it. In the moments that followed, I felt completely broken. How could someone who had spent years telling me I was beautiful, who had been so tender with me, think of me in this way? Why did it hurt so much? I couldn't help but feel like I was never truly loved for who I am, but only for the person I pretended to be. I didn't speak to him that night. I avoided him the whole day after hoping that somehow it would fade away, but it didn't. It weighed heavily on my mind, and I knew I had to talk to him. My thoughts were a mix of rage and sadness, but when I finally confronted him, he didn't try to defend his words or make excuses. Instead, he apologized profusely. He admitted that he had said something cruel, but that he was just frustrated and angry in the moment. He told me he had never, ever meant to hurt me. He said that he had failed me by allowing his friends to joke like that about me. He even went so far as to say that they wouldn't be welcome in our home anymore because they had crossed a line. The words were healing, but not enough to completely undo the damage. It felt like he was saying all the right things, but I still couldn't shake the feeling of hurt. He showed me an email he had sent to his friends, telling them off for their remarks, and even stated that they were no longer welcome at his place. He had clearly been preparing for this conversation, which was a relief to me. He wasn't just trying to brush it under the rug. He was actually trying to make things right. To further show how much he cared, he surprised me with a trip to a spa resort. It was something he'd been planning for months, saving up money to give me an experience I could never forget. When I saw the effort he'd put into making things better, I realized just how much he truly did love me, despite his careless words. It wasn't about my looks, or at least that's what he kept telling me. Even with all the love and gestures, I still struggle with the fact that I've never felt pretty enough. But what I've realized is that my self-worth isn't tied to my physical appearance, and that's something I'm working to understand. My husband loves me for who I am, inside and out, even if I can't fully accept it just yet. He's done everything in his power to show me how much I mean to him, and for that I am incredibly grateful. Still, this whole experience has taught me that it's okay to have insecurities, but also that the love I have is deeper than just the superficial. I can't say everything is perfectly resolved, but I'm getting there. We are stronger than ever, and I'm slowly learning to believe that he really does find me beautiful, even when I can't see it myself.